If you're watching later, comment. So, Dad, I've been doing this podcast for about a year. It's called Hemp, What You Heard.
Hemp, What You Heard, okay.
And you've been along for the ride since 2018, really.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of hemp expertise to share.
Well, I don't know that I have a lot of expertise. I probably have a lot of opinions.
Mm-hmm. Experience, though, you've been by my side, watching,
absolutely.
helping.
I've watched you work very, very assiduously in trying to promote this crop that would benefit the entire world, let alone the United States and Kansas as well, and the farmers.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen you struggle against some of the roadblocks that maybe not intentionally were put in place, but exist from past, let's say, the people that run the show. And I've watched you struggle with that, and you've overcome so many difficulties and trying to persuade people, which shouldn't require a great deal of persuasion to take part and get behind something that would be so beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you. I don't think I need these on. I did kind of like having them on, I guess, hearing. See if we're still good. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. This isn't, you don't have to go on about how great I am, but I'm lucky to have always had so much parental support. So I think being able to persist in this space is certainly due to your help and others. But, when we first got started, we drove out to Colorado. We bought clones. I think that was one of the first videos we made, and I might try to integrate it in here because it's funny to look back on. But we had the back seat full of clones from Colorado. We brought them back. We built a grow space in your building, which was your parents' building. So I've really loved, being in that space, and we got to hang out a lot. It was fun, and my cousins are there, and we grew hemp for CBD.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, great for what it was, but it's during the time we're going to events and seeing like real soybean farmers, and they're trying to grow CBD plants outside. And that's what kind of led to the research on fiber grain, which you got me the great big book of hemp, I think is in the other room on the bookshelf. But that's where the country's roots were, they were in grain and fiber. And then because of the prohibition, it drove the industry underground, which created, super THC plants that didn't even exist early in the days. The plant was purely serving the country in agricultural ways. And so we stopped growing inside the building because that's not the right fit for a grain and fiber crop. And we started doing research around the state, and we collaborated with farmers. Your cousins introduced me to my business partner here in Augusta, Troy Palmer at Midwestern Technology, and we built a processing company to process grain and fiber. And you've watched that come together, and you come out and you visit, and you're so helpful, and that is so awesome. But today, we only usually talk like 20 minutes. So I just wanted to share more about like your personal story, because you're kind of famous.
I don't know about that, about being famous. I've been around for quite a while, so that speaks for something. But I want to say that I'm extremely proud of the effort that you make to make a difference, and I think that's what drives you, and I think that's what appeals to a lot of people who meet you in person and understand that this isn't something you're doing to gain any kind of popularity or notoriety, but something you truly believe is going to help your children and the children that come along from the viewers, from everybody, that this is something that can benefit them throughout their lifetimes. And I appreciate that very much. But yes, we've had some experiences on the road. I was thinking as I was driving over how many miles you probably have put on the Chrysler minivan in attending conferences and going around the country and trying to get people to understand that this isn't the 1920s and 30s and 40s when a crop was declined, and people declined to accept it because it had connections with marijuana and THC and the drug culture. that this is a product that can feed people and requires the much less of the resources to grow than some of the other crops. And to get that message out, you've gone to, I think, not extreme measures, but you have gone to great lengths to accomplish that. And
I think it might be extreme. Yeah, it might be.
I can, having a penchant for the old days of sailing ships, and knowing that those particular vessels were depended totally on hemp, on hemp rope. And the process of making hemp rope 100, 200 years ago was a labor intensive event, but it allowed explorers and people with commercial interest to develop the world that we see today, which in some cases is not always what we had hoped for. But in the long run, hemp played a vital part in the development of the economy of the world and the exploration. Yeah. And yet we continue to see, I continue to see you having to devote an effort to convince people that this is a valuable and reliable product that can help advance our cause. So that's my plea for people to begin to listen, because we can't operate in the past and thinking that because someone doesn't have the grasp and the information about this crop, that it should be held back because of that. But I think you're making great strides, and I just enjoy seeing you and being your dad.
Well, likewise, much to do with family support and the Chrysler minivan. And that is the picture that I'm going to post in here on the intro, is us unloading the Chrysler minivan with Medicine River hemp from Barber County in 2019, a plant we've continued to develop to try and have a Kansas specific variety. We've done it at a very small scale, but it's been at research plots, USDA research plots again this year. And we really think that there's a lot of answers in those native genetics. Of course, we're working with New West Genetics on our commercial fields, and they've been a wonderful partner and truly understand the oil seed value. This is this plant should be in feed. We should be feeding this to our animals, our kids. Everybody should be eating this. And yeah, the first thing most people say about the protein powder, the hemp seed oil, is, I can't take that. I can't eat that because I take drug tests at work. And it's just like the baseline understanding is so far off. You've taken the protein powder. You've used the hemp seed oil. I think had good results. It's a great, highly nutritious product. I see more and more people wanting to try. I see more and more people feeding it to their animals. We've been selling it in 25-pound bags and 5 chickens and quails, doves, racing pigeons even. We have a racing pigeon customer. So I feel like the tide's turning, and a lot of the education maybe is turning into sales and products and market penetration. Slowly. And, we know that it takes time. It takes a lot of positive social norming and messaging for people to accept or cross some barrier, relearn something that they thought they knew that wasn't quite right. So thanks for your advocacy on that, and your of course, your friend group and your family. I just, you hooked me up with Leah at Firefly Farm, and we grew hemp there for several years. And she's been a wonderful advocate. So I just appreciate you at so many levels, and I know, you got a lot of wisdom and great things to share, and just life perspective.
It's interesting to hear you say that at this point in your lifetime. When I can recall days when that was not the case, let's just say. But as a teenager growing up, you were a challenge, but we are rewarded in the fact that this is where you are now. But it truly, I appreciate you saying those kind of things. It is at this point in my life, I have found that people like you make a big difference in what this world needs and what it needs to strive to become. and I don't mean to denigrate the pharmaceutical industry in this country or in the world for that matter, but we are faced with a continuing onslaught of drugs, serious drugs that are intended to help, but don't always do that. And when we look at the idea of the profit motive driving the development of certain chemicals, I don't know if I'm allowed to say Roundup or not, but we look at the situation with that particular product at great intentions, probably does the job very well, but also carries with it things that people generally suffer because of. Unlike this particular crop, that I'm no expert, not even close to it on this, but this particular crop has never shown the grain aspect of it to have any negative effects on human development or condition. You don't get a lot of, what are the words I'm looking for here? Warnings about side effects.
Right. We don't have any listed.
And yet there are those in positions of power who continue to dismiss it as something that might have a connection to something in the past or the present. Certainly, we know there are several states around us that have endorsed the use of THC at a recreational level. And in Kansas, we don't even have it at a medicinal level, but we do have a lot of drugs that carry with them benefits, but also extreme danger. And so it's difficult to understand. I know you don't want me to get off into a political aspect of this, but something needs to be done, especially about the medical aspect of marijuana.
Yeah, totally.
The recreational, I'm a bit sketchy on that.
Yeah, but there needs to be a legal framework for people to access cannabis for sure in a safe and regulated way. And our legislature and Kansas government's failure to do that is very negative. It has a lot of negative implications, and I hope that they'll get that fixed. I do think that it has, because Kansas' only option really has been grain and fiber as a hemp-related crop, it has forced our focus in that direction, which, if you're trying to find the benefit and something that has some negatives, that could be one of them. And then, of course, just moving, we used to be regulated as growers by the Kansas Department of Ag, and you saw they'd come out 4 times a year, to inspect our little tiny place. They show up unannounced and act like, let us in. It was unnecessary.
Let us in or we'll kick the door down.
Yeah, that's what they said. So we've moved beyond that experience now. As processors, we're regulated by the U.S. Department of Ag. The license lasts 3 years. It doesn't cost any money except your background check, which you do still have to do. I think one of the provisions of the Farm Bill that hasn't passed yet, but is maybe going to, would change the inspection. So instead of getting a sample, and they have this, Allie's a licensed agent, she has to go zigzag through the field and collect samples and put them in an evidence bag and tape them shut and mail them to a lab. For 7 years, this will be the 8th year we've done this. It's absurd. But anyway, the Farm Bill might change it to a visual inspection. So you still have to have an inspection, but they could just come out and say, okay, Sarah, you're growing Medicine River 23, and you've done this for 8 years in a row, and we know it's a grain producer, and you have male and female plants, so you're good. And not have this time-bounded harvest deadline and the sampling and the expense, the $225 sampling fee that goes with that. So I do feel a lot of things moving in the right direction in the long arc of time. And that's, I think, a position that we try to maintain in life, because yes, there's things not right about today or things that could be better or ways that we'd like to see this improve. But generally, you have always encouraged me to push in the direction you want things to go. And does it happen fast or easy? No, it really doesn't. But if you can kind of bring some people along with you, share message appropriately, and share what you're trying to communicate well.
Progress. Taking a ground roots approach to it is considerably more tedious and involves more time than if you had someone, a lobbyist, and we're paying them hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to Congress and get the attention and the ear of those who make decisions, it would be a lot easier. But you don't have that. You don't have the pharmaceutical dollars to promote their particular product like they do, or any advertising entity that comes in and can create an avalanche of information on the media. You don't have that, and this becomes something that ought to keep people aware, or make people aware that you're not driven by big business at this point.
I could do a lot of other things to make way more money.
Well, you certainly have attributes and resources personally that would have allowed you to succeed in any number. But I could go on and on, but you could have succeeded in any number of areas, and you've chosen this and made great sacrifices because of it. But that's who you are, and I'm proud of you. And we move on as we must, not always as we wish. And it would be great if people could embrace this effort that you make and take it as a personal challenge to look into it and see that the benefits. Well, in my humble opinion, are there. Now, I would say that if the grain maybe tasted more like popcorn with butter on it and salt and pepper. But,
yeah, well, if you put it in the capsules, that's easy. You can just pop them in. But yeah, I drink fiber at night. It's not good either, but you just choke it down and you're filling up your stomach with something that's good for you. And, more of us should probably learn to quit following our taste buds all the time.
And that's true. I think it's kind of like exercising. It's not always the easiest thing to do, but the benefits are obvious and might be a little bit distasteful at first, but
they grow on you.
Yeah. Well, I certainly have had, I think, good results. I've had some issues, physical issues with a toe. I began taking the hemp oil and grain and the powder, and after going to the wound care place for months, it never healed. But then, who could say? I didn't do a double-blind study to see if that was what the cause of the healing was.
But it's a complete source of protein, all the amino acids that your body needs and can't make itself. It's high in fiber, iron, copper, manganese, zinc. I mean, it's a superfood. And we just, haven't had the marketing campaign that chia seeds or flax seeds or all these grains that come to the forefront of the American consumer based on information that's gotten pushed that way. And there's some, I think, good efforts with, there's a group called Hemp, part of the IND Hemp group, and they're doing a big marketing campaign called The Goodness of Hemp, highlighting all the ways that it serves our civilization and world. That's an exciting, I think I'll be trying to be involved with that. But we watch videos on Facebook and YouTube and podcasts, and it's a good way to also share the message. And even though we don't have pharmaceutical dollars, you can't argue today with the access you have to free platforms where you can get your message out and say what you want. And do I have the ability to drive like millions of viewers right now? I don't. But I think, you're still attracting people that are interested in the message, and that can grow based on who they are and, the attraction that they bring. So we keep after it. Persistence. Appreciate your support and the persistent effort. I've made our lives hard. We had a company called Safe Riders. It used to make you drive around drunk people in the middle of the night.
Make sure they understand. I used to drive around people who were inebriated. I was not drunk.
No, right. We had, right. So this, some days when I'm having this is hard, I'm like, it's not as hard as driving people home after they've been drinking at 3:00 in the morning on 4th of July.
And vomiting in the back seat.
And
things of that nature. Yeah, that was an effort that I was glad to be a part of, but I'm not unhappy that it's over.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, which I don't know, I want to get into that, but I was always disappointed that the insurance companies didn't come along and say, here's something that can save us money, in fact, make us money, and keep people safe. And they never did that, and I can never quite figure out why. That to get people off of the road who are impaired, it is essential to people being safe. And if it drives down the premiums of other people's insurance, and anyway, another.
It was a wild ride. You know, we did that for 7 years, and I know Mom just hated it too. Like, just you're out late at night. The customers were, you know, mostly good, but they're obviously too drunk to drive, so they came with the challenge.
Yeah, they obviously made some bad decisions in the first place, but then they made a good one,
right?
And maybe where the decision was forced on them or not. I don't know.
Helped
in some
aided.
cases.
I
always remember the situation where a young man had called, or someone had called for him, and he refused to wait, got in his car rather than wait for your service to come and pick him up. Subsequently crashed his car and died as a result of his impairment, and that should have been enough for people. But fortunately, now you have Lyft, you have all of the services that provide transportation for people who are wise enough to make a good decision. But here's another opportunity for people to make good decisions about their health, about the world in general, the climate of the world, and then the culture of the world. People caring about what's good and what's going to be a product that enhances their life. That doesn't keep them from. It's kind of like you know, and I'm constantly on it's the motivation of getting kids, especially your kids and the kids in my family, not to drink too much soda pop. It's empty calories. It doesn't do anything for them other than, well,
tastes good.
I won't get off into that, but taste buds.
They were going to tell you that the other night we were watching the basketball game, and they said Grandpa liked Victor Wembanyama. He refuses. He's the star on the Spurs player team, and he refuses to do any endorsements for pop. So they were excited to tell you that you would probably go for the Spurs since they're their player. And that's like, yes, consumer, we have to have choices. We need to make the best choices and recognize that our choices have all these downstream and upstream impacts that we really can decide if, as consumers, we're not going to buy this, or we're going to buy less of this, or
Well, I think you have to keep in mind that when a company or a large organization has the abundance of resources to spend that kind of money on convincing you that you will feel better, and if you consume this particular product, and they convince you of that, then you'll go out and spend the $5. It's much like if you don't wear this particular makeup, or you don't particularly have this type of clothing to wear, you're a little bit behind the time and maybe not quite as acceptable as others. And that's one of the things about advertising that really irritates me. I'm constantly, if I'm watching a commercial, people get irritated with me because I will begin to pick it apart, because they want to make you feel bad by making you feel better by making you feel bad. And that's, anyway, I don't know how we got off into this subject, but at any rate,
for the viewers, my life, I have witnessed this gentleman, Pep Boys sold him a bad part. He protested outside until they made it right. And this is one of at least a dozen examples I can think of where you have used the power of civil disobedience, you're regularly calling, even on commercials that you feel like are a lie, Subaru. I think they are.
The weather does matter.
Yes,
whether you're driving a Subaru or a tank, the weather does matter. And I think the Russians and Germans will attest to that, or anybody that was in a war that involved weather. The weather does matter. And I think
Subaru is not going to overcome the weather.
A lot of led people to believe that they could overcome the weather, and you can't do that. I don't know if I'll say this anyway. There was a couple of students at the Air Force Academy coming back across Kansas during a big snowstorm years ago. And I don't know that they were driving a Subaru, but the road I-70 was closed. And they decided they were going to come anyway. And they got off on the side road, got stuck in the snow. And the next morning they found them overcome with carbon monoxide poisoning, and they died because they thought they could overcome the weather. If you tell somebody that the car you're driving is superior in power to the weather, you're making a serious mistake. And in spite of the fact that I did call Subaru many times and say this is leading to a rather distorted view of reality, but they don't advertise that anymore. I think I'm totally responsible for that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I remember Grandma writing letters to elected officials, and I think you come by that honestly from your life experiences and your engagement as a high school teacher and administrator, and you see that what we do matters, that life is short. We might as well just do and say and go and be, the best of ourselves.
Well,
make good choices, buy things that support farmers, that are good for the ground, that support American supply chains. It's all within our power. We don't need to rely on fertilizer that comes from the Strait of Hormuz. We don't need to do that. We can adjust things like that, and we should do it right now. It is a moment of crisis really on a lot of farms. Farm bankruptcies in Kansas are this year over last year. It's a startling statistic, and the inputs are very high and markets are low. It's a difficult time, I think, for people to consider a new crop like hemp, but yet I continue to hear from farmers all the time that are looking for like an alternative because the situation's not good. So when you have things that aren't good and situations that are established but not built for the future, it cracks open and it creates problems, and you have to try and find your opportunity benefit for the world going forward in whatever the problem is. So that's what we're trying to do here. Focus on the positive, focus on what we can change, what we can impact, the education that we can share. And I talk to a lot of guys your age.
I didn't know there were that many left.
I think all my friends in this business are mostly 70-year-old men, and they're farmers or they're business people, and they want to leave a legacy of good soil. They know that maybe the system of all the chemicals has been difficult on the ground, and they really care, and they really love, I think, to talk to me because I'm listening, and I want to take that information and help it serve this crop. And there's seriously, to me, nothing cooler than a 70-year-old environmentalist. And most farmers, they might not say I'm an environmentalist, but they're environmentalists
Absolutely.
by nature. They care about the ground that sustains their family more than any, nonprofit leader in New York City does. They care. And they want this to work out. And they're open, to ideas. They're constantly educating themselves on new crops and new ways of doing things that can save them money or increase their yield. They talk to each other. They care about the communities. I just feel mostly inspired most days. Like you're talking about my kids. I sent them something this week. This gentleman, I think he's in his 70s, professor in New Mexico, has some ground in Kansas, sent me all these resources on how they had used hemp in Chernobyl. And, I was like, you guys, look at this gentleman. I talk to people like him every week. Somebody cool like this calls or comes here or sends me an email. And there's this growing body of people that care. And all you have to do is like connect, and you're inspired and you're part of something and you feel like you can make a difference. So thanks for being part of that network. And I think in my career, I always have mostly worked for men that, were leading big organizations, or they were running for office, or they were, running companies. And I'm not intimidated by that environment because of, our talks and our heated discussions. And you've always valued my opinion, encouraged me to think critically and be able to communicate well, present my opinions. And not be, afraid to do that. So that's what I'm doing. And I appreciate your encouragement and then the receptiveness of the people that I get to interact with. It really keeps me engaged and wanting to keep going forward.
Well, I can say a lot of good things about you, and I'm not trying to convince anyone that this effort that you have undertaken is anything other than for the benefit of others. Now, you pull a lot of people along with you, and that's just because of the experiences you had. Now, you mentioned working with a lot of men. And I believe that some of them probably felt intimidated by your presence. And anyway, you're a fine one.
Yeah, well, I come from a long line of fine ones, and I'm grateful for that every day, and grateful for your experiences that,
So you
put me at Wichita
people out
State.
there, if you got some chickens that need some feed, this is a place to come and get it. Feed it to the wild birds. I've become fascinated with some of the I guess the descendants of the dinosaurs are
I
still with
was
us.
hearing that, yeah.
Feed
Well,
them.
and their ability to eat seeds
Mhm.
was what kept them evolutionarily progressing.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, because seeds, even in a fire, they can be dormant and they can come back, still maintain their nutrition. NPR the other day. Good story.
Now, this is not soda.
No,
Okay.
0 calories, no plastic,
No sugar.
no sugar. Well, Dad, anything you want to wrap up with?
Well, I appreciate you having the confidence in me that I wouldn't screw this up or anything.
Can't screw up. I can edit later.
Oh,
There's
really?
nobody watching, so we can
Hey, if you're not
we'll
watching,
record it, and then I can go in and chop up, little parts or make like a little promo video.
well, it's my pleasure to be here.
Well, thanks for being along for this hemp journey and sharing a little bit more. I think if you ever wondered why or how I got to be.
Well, I see a lot of you in what I could have been.
No, well, I don't know. I think we're all just building, hopefully taking our foundations and, leaving them for the next generation to build on and hopefully go in the right direction. I feel like we're doing a decent job. I don't know. To be determined.
Like people say, how are you? And I say, time will tell.
How about time flies?
Time flies. Oh no, time stays. We go.
We're out.
We're out. Over and out.
Over and out, 10-4.
So what do you got on tap, Luce?